April 3rd, 2024 will go down in history when the new Student Loan Act was signed into law by President Bola Tinubu to bridge the gap for access to sustainable higher education and functional skills development for Nigerian students. As amendments on the new act provide loans to qualified applicants, vocational training and skills acquisition. A laudable initiative by the President indeed, a boost in the education sector, as it is a dynamic, adaptable and responsive means towards the development of the sector. Now, the new act also establishes justice and fairness by ensuring a minimum national spread of loans approved and disbursed in each financial year for eligible students. It also paves the way for the protection of citizens to ensure that they have the means to fund their education. Now that the Students' Loan Scheme has come to stay, what makes the scheme unique and what impact will it have in the education sector? What are the expectations and likely impediments if the objectives of the scheme must be achieved? Tonight on Weekend File, we will be discussing the prospects of Students' Loan Scheme to educational development. As usual, our correspondents have filed in reports on stakeholders' perspectives on the Students' Loan Scheme. Our guest is Dr. Philip John Hayab. He's a teacher, educator, and conflict analyst. Welcome to Weekend File. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Ruth Aguilera. First, we'll begin with the news. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, is optimistic that the Vice President's official residence will be delivered on schedule. The minister gave this indication when he inspected the ongoing project this Saturday in Abuja. Onoze Yakubu reports.
Visit, they have made significant progress.
The Vice President's official residence in Abuja is one of the priority projects earmarked for inauguration May this year, when President Bola Tinubu will be marking his 1 year in office.
Interlocking is completed, the blasting is ongoing also in this area.
Optimistic and willing to fulfill his pledge of delivering the project on schedule, the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike visited the ongoing project site to ascertain level of work.
The last visit we made and this visit today shows there's a lot of improvement. So we believe, by the grace of God, that something that will excellence.
With the countdown to the delivering date and ticking ambiances all in a bid to meet up with the deadline, it is obvious FCT residents will witness what stakeholders term massive project execution in days ahead. Onoze Yakubu, NTA News.
Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, is exploring more ways to enhance its mandate of supervising and protecting depositors' funds, invigorating liquidity activities and increased debt recovery. The Managing Director, Bello Hassan, was speaking at the NDIC's day in the ongoing 35th Enugu International Trade Fair. Let's hear from Chimaroke Ugu.
It was the special day of the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, at the 35th Enugu International Trade Fair to once again create awareness about the responsibilities of the 35-year-old corporation and its essence in the life of a common man.
The NDIC plays a vital role in protecting depositors and contributing to the stability of the financial system and ensures the adoption of secured and prudent banking practices. Consequently, the NDIC instills public confidence by way of assurance to depositors that their funds will remain secure and accessible in the unfortunate event of a bank failure.
For the organizers of the trade fair, the Enugu Chamber of Commerce, the NDIC's relationship with commercial banks has restored the confidence of bank depositors, thereby helping to grow Nigeria's financial sector.
The role of NDIC in the protection of depositors' funds with the banks and other financial institutions is most reassuring. NDIC also remains a great backup for Nigerian teeny depositors who had hitherto suffered dearly in the past prior to the establishment of NDIC by losing all their deposits whenever instability or a tsunami occurs in the banking industry.
The NDIC aims at protecting depositors and contributing to the stability of the financial system through effective supervision of insured institutions and prompt payment of guaranteed sums from failed insured financial institutions. In Enugu, Chinenye Nwoye, NTA News.
The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board and the Nigeria Police Force have warned candidates preparing for the 2024 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination against patronizing fake websites. Olayinka Ojo reports that this was emphasized during a joint news conference at Abuja. Candidates were also advised to print their slips from the comfort of their homes or visit any of the over 700 accredited computer-based test centers nationwide. In a seamless process, the Force Public Relations Officer Olumuyiwa Adejobi says there are several fake websites created by some individuals with the intention of misleading candidates. He urges candidates to be wary of the antics of fraudsters, saying the fake websites are designed to deceive innocent candidates into providing personal details such as registration numbers, email addresses, and phone numbers.
National Cybercrime Center to go after scammers and fraudsters who engage in cyber-related crimes and create phishing sites to portals and cause them to face the full wrath of the law.
And we are urging candidates to note that once you receive any unsolicited message, know that it is fraud, it is a scam. We have liberalized our processes. We have offices in all the 36 states of the Federation, including Abuja. Once you have any challenge, you can also raise a ticket. We have a ticketing platform where your questions will be attended to within 24 hours.
Both organizations assured parents and candidates of their readiness to safeguard their interests and maintain the integrity of the examination process. Borno State government urges parents of Chibok Girls still held in captivity to remain patient, as authorities at federal and state levels are working hard to secure their release and ensure their safe return in good health. This was emphasized by the Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Professor Usman Tar, at a press conference organized to mark the 10th anniversary of the abduction of the Chibok Girls. Mohammed Goni reports.
Out of the 276 Chibok girls abducted in 2014, 187 have been rescued and reunited with their families. They have undergone rehabilitation, including support from local and foreign facilities, while recently rescued individuals are now attending Borno State Second Chance School, and their school-age children have been enrolled in nursery schools. Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Professor Usman Tar, highlighted the joint efforts of federal and state government alongside security forces to rescue the remaining girls.
This painful date is engraved in our memory, and we shall not rest on our oars until the last of our innocent girls are back home with their families. On this auspicious occasion of the 10th anniversary of the abduction of Chibok Girls, the Borno State government identifies with all those who are affected by the abduction. The government wishes to inform the public that we will continue to identify and commiserate with the parents and relatives of the Chibok Girls who are still in captivity.
Professor Usman Tar, who stressed commitment of the Borno State government to close down all IDP camps and resettlement of internally displaced persons and refugees in neighboring countries, as well as rebuilding destroyed communities, said 1 million IDPs have so far returned to their ancestral homes. Emphasizing the Borno Restoration Project as well as Peace and Reconciliation Initiative, also known as the Borno Model, Usman Tar outlined focus on engaging security forces and rehabilitating repentant insurgents. In Maiduguri, Muhammad Goni, NTA News.
In other news, Sultan of Sokoto and President General Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, Mohammed Saad Abubakar, has called on Nigerians to continue to pray for the country and its leaders for peace and sustainable development. This was while receiving emirs of Argungu and Gwandu from Kebbi State on Salah homage at the palace. Bashir Ibrahim Nababa reports.
Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar, was visibly happy to receive the Mayor of Argungu, Samaila Muhammad Mera, and council members of Gwandu Emirate led by Wazir Gwandu. He described the Salah homage by the monarchs as historic and important to the Sultanate Council. The Sultan acknowledges that the annual Salah homage had over the years significantly strengthened the long-existing relationship between the traditional institutions. Sultan Saad reminded Muslims of the need to continue to pray for peace and an end to the economic and security challenges in the country. The Sultan called for advices and suggestions from the two emirates towards better decision-making in matters affecting activities of the Sultanate Council. A mayor of Argungu, Samaila Muhammad Mera, told the Sultan that they were at the palace for the Salah homage and congratulated the Sultan and the Muslim Ummah over successful Eid al-Fitr celebrations and prayed Allah to continue to guide him at all times. From Sokoto, Bashir Ibrahim Nababa, NTA News.
Suspected Yoruba Nation agitators have invaded the Oyo State House of Assembly complex. Our correspondent, Lukman Hassan, who visited the Assembly complex, reports that normalcy has returned after the invaders were arrested.
Armed men who were suspected to be agitators of Yoruba Nation engaged in an open shootout with security men inside the Oyo State Secretariat. Security operatives comprising Oyo State Amotekun operatives and other security apparatus have been stationed around the assembly complex to forestall the breakdown of law and order. They were reportedly dressed in army uniform and covered their faces in masks with heavy ammunition and the flag of the proposed Yoruba Nation. Meanwhile, in a statement, the public relations officer of the Oyo State Police Command, Adewale Osifeso, said 20 of the suspects have been arrested after being overpowered by security operatives. He added that weapons were recovered from the invaders. From the Oyo State House of Assembly complex, Lukman Hassan, NTA News.
Ibadan Kingmakers have nominated High Chief Owolabi Olakunleyin as 43rd Olubadan of Ibadan land. The nomination was confirmed after a meeting of Olubadan in Council in Oja Oba, Ibadan. Let's hear again from Lukman Hassan.
At the meeting of the Olubadan in Council, Oba Owolabi Olakunleyin was nominated by Osi Balogun of Ibadan land, Oba Gbadamosi Adebimpe, and ratified by all those present. The meeting, which was chaired by Otun Olubadan of Ibadan land, High Chief Rashidi Ladoja, will now forward the name of Oba Owolabi Olakunleyin to Governor Seyi Makinde for endorsement. High Chief Rashidi Ladoja noted that the nomination of Oba Owolabi Olakunleyin is the final stage to conclude the process of the next Olubadan of Ibadan land.
We hope that the governor will give his consent as early as possible. As soon as he gives his consent, then a date for coronation will be given.
The nomination of the new Olubadan of Ibadan land became necessary following the demise of the former Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Mahood Balogun, who joined his ancestors after a brief illness at the age of 81. In Ibadan, Lukman Hassan, NTA News.
Former Osun State Governor and pioneer chairman of the APC, Chief BC Akonde, receives the demise of Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu, former governor of Abia State and the immediate past Minister of Science and Technology, with shock. Chief BC Akonde recalled that Dr. Onu was a friend and political ally for many years, especially as they worked together to midwife the APC through a tortuous process that required principled management of men and resources. When the process of realignment by other political parties to confront the People's Democratic Party began in 2013, Dr. Onu, as leader of one of the main opposition parties, the All Nigerian People's Party, was not just clear in his resolve to join the new political bloc. but provided intellectual resources, which the team put forward to promote the new group, Chief B.C. Akonde noted. Chief Akonde notes that with the demise of Dr. Onu, Nigeria has lost an astute leader, an intellectual giant, a peaceful man, a promoter of national unity, and a disciplined family man. The young will have a lot to learn from what he stood for, his eloquence and principles. Chief Akonde condoled with the people of Ebonyi State, his immediate family, and all Nigerians. He says in him was the epitome of all that is good in party politics and democratic engagement. All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll begin our conversation on the prospect of the students' loan to educational development. Don't go anywhere. Good to have you there. And just before we begin the conversation on the prospect of the students' loan scheme to educational development, we'll bring you some reports now. It is a new dawn for Nigerian students as President Bola Tinubu recently signed into law the Students' Loans Access to Higher Education Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2024. Olainka Ojo in this report takes a look at the opportunities in the Act which seek to guarantee sustainable higher education and functional skills development for all Nigerian students and youth.
The Student Loan Act is a fulfillment of the promise made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his renewed hope agenda for education. This is because it will bring Nigeria closer to achieving Sustainable Development Goal 4, which ensures inclusive and equitable quality education. It ensures that no Nigerian, regardless of their backgrounds, will be excluded from obtaining access to quality education.
We are determined to ensure education is given the proper attention necessary for the country, including skill development programs.
One interesting thing is that it gives access to funds for education and vocational training through a corporate body which will provide the loans to Nigerians for higher education and other related matters. Today, there's a growing support for the new law, especially among youths who are the sole beneficiaries, as it will build an army of workforce that will increase the country's productive force.
Happy, and you see that even Nigeria's parents will be happy, and we pray that those given the responsibility will effectively carry it out.
Actually, the student loan is good. First, it enables the student to go to school. But in the other hand, after graduating, will there be a job opportunity for the students so that they can be able to pay their loan?
Nigeria, as at present, has more than 500 tertiary institutions. And unlike the Student Loan Act of 2023, the new act removes family income threshold, enables Nigerian students to apply and accept responsibility for repayment of the loan. The loan, which is meant for solely public tertiary institutions, covers the cost of institutional fees of whatever course a student is studying. Being a well-intended project, the beneficiaries of the loan are expected to start repayment 2 years after national service. For funding, there are a number of contributions expected from government agencies. Other means of funding are revenues from shared profits from oil and minerals. Although this is not limited to government alone, there are rooms for high net worth individuals, corporations, non-governmental organizations, as well as general donors. Olainka Ojo, NTA News.
Well, the development of every nation depends largely on the capacity of the younger generation. The present administration is not oblivious to that fact. Hence, the passing into law the Students' Loan Bill in high institutions. Lynn Leneke examines the positives and the implications.
Students' loan scheme set to commence in the 2023-2024 academic session. Proper understanding of how it works is imperative, especially among beneficiaries. This raises the question about their level of awareness.
I feel as a public student, the process of getting the student loan will be hard on our parents because, for instance, now you have to get a guarantor and it's a very difficult process.
I don't really know anything about the loan. I don't know if we should go to the bank, local government, or the ministry.
Great platform has been created
both in terms of funding the loan scheme and also the structure to ensure that all the things are abide with. So I have no doubt in my mind that the objectives as stated by Mr. President will be fully achieved.
This laudable feat by the Bola Tinubu administration to ease the financial burden on parents, guardians and even students who sponsor themselves will provide opportunity for disadvantaged students seeking higher education.
As long as everybody abide by the rules as set in the law and also as said by the management and the board, I do not foresee any major impediment as we go, other than, of course, the usual teething problem that might be when this scheme starts.
Stakeholders who described the scheme as a game changer are optimistic that the benefits are enormous.
It shows that there is a kind of concern by this new administration that there is a kind of crisis within the education sector and that it is ready to tackle it.
It is believed that the intervention will in no small measure enhance the quality of education. In Lagos, Lynn Lenake, NTA News.
All right, to begin the conversation on the prospect of the student loan scheme towards educational development, we have a guest in the studio, Dr. Philip John Hayab. He's a teacher educator and conflict analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Hayab, for joining us on Weekend Fab.
Thank you for having me.
And just for clarity, you saw one of the respondents from the last report. She was concerned about the guarantor, required. Now, before the reenactment, what would you say generally about this the new act, talking about the student loan scheme, a new commitment, that has been applauded by experts. But what's your take on that? She was concerned about the guarantor. We know that in the new act, it's no longer there.
Thank you. From the beginning, when the idea of the student loans was mooted, I applauded it because my understanding is that most countries that have made progress operate a student loan program, and such a program affords maybe, let's say, candidates who are willing to go to tertiary education and do not have the funding or do not have the background to aspire to seek to pursue higher education. So yes, the students' loan that has been enacted into law by the president is a welcome development. It's a sign that there is a new perspective as we in the side of on the part of education, because without education you cannot build human capacity, and without human capacity you cannot develop a nation. So I commend the effort. I commend the House of Assemblies, the National House of Assembly and the House of Reps for this expedited action to ensuring that this bill gets passed. And we are looking forward to how this program is going to take off. And we pray that it will be different from the past experiences that we've had with very laudable programs at the beginning, and then it becomes something at the end.
And it's good, Dr. Hayab, you mentioned the past processes. Following the question I asked, before your initial opening remarks about the whole reenactment of the loan scheme, that's the new act. Now, a lot has been changed, not having it to be a rigorous process, not to say that there won't be, the right alignment, but the whole structure is new, making it easy and, for eligible applicants to apply. What can you tell us, are the workable deliverables in that?
Yeah, first, definitely, if you insist that people should come with a guarantor, and the first draft law, I think the guarantor needs to be a lawyer or a senior civil servant. We have children of the poor who are in rural communities and are aspiring to go to the university. They may not have access to a lawyer, and maybe they might not know anyone who is a senior civil servant to that level. So expunging that clause of having to have a guarantor maybe at a higher level is a welcome development. It shows that government is listening, because it came from the criticisms and maybe questions raised by individuals. And so the government has listened, and then this change had come. So yes, a few modifications have been made to the original proposed bill. I know at the beginning it was supposed to be 500,000 naira is the net worth for the family that the applicant will come from. I'm not quite sure what it is at the moment, but the fact that we have modifications, revision to the law, it's already a sign that the government is listening, and it is a welcome development which calls for us to applaud the government.
All right, if we want to look at a population like Nigeria or a nation like Nigeria, and with the changing global economy, of course, you know, skills will be on demand. It will escalate. And the new loan scheme, of course, provides for vocational skills, training, of course. How do you think this will play out? Now, students who think that they will just apply for a loan, they're going to give them money, but we're seeing vocational training and skills acquisition.
Yes, this is one area that I would say we have actually moved to join the innovative pedagogy or innovative movement. Yes, it's not everybody that can acquire university education. So some people may have a trade, may have a skill that they want to build upon. If you insist that everyone has to go to the university, then those with skills and other vocational prowess would be losing out, and that will not also support equity and fairness. So by allowing or including skills acquisition as part of this student loan scheme, it's I would say, to me, it actually shows innovation, and it gives room that we should have an inclusive system, not an exclusive system. Well, what might be the problem, I think, would be how to assess those who want to acquire the skills, or those who already have the skills and want to actually upscale it. But for the students, because the universities will be there, the polytechnics will be there, colleges of education will be there, it might be a bit easier to track those ones. But anyway, since the body is actually geared towards facing the challenges that are challenges related to establishing and running such a scheme like a loan scheme or scholarships in Nigeria, I believe that they would be able to make a breakthrough, and things would be different from the way we have known them to be.
All right, Dr. Yahaya, I know part of the concerns that you may have had is the payment mechanisms. We saw the clauses involved for the payment 2 years after completion of NYSC, but the concerns for persons, stakeholders, is the repayment structure plan. Will these students, pay this money after the whole education is completed and the NYSC? But what would be your recommendation as regards streamlining the process to ensure that monitoring is ensued?
Yeah, it is possible to make beneficiaries after graduation and securing a job to begin to pay off the loan slowly or gradually. The problem there would be, how do you guarantee that these beneficiaries would be able to get employed in a system where you can track? Yes, with the BVN today, with the NIN, National Identity Number, I can say that we have made a very great leap. So it is possible to track someone if at the beginning of the application there is going to be a provision to collect people's BVN if they have bank accounts. And I should advise that they should be encouraged to open bank accounts for those who might not have, and then link it with the national identity number. Once you have this, I think even if the person opens 50 accounts later, the accounts will all be linked, and therefore it's possible to track. But to get students or beneficiaries to graduate after 2 years and begin to pay would also require the body in charge of the student's loan to begin to make provision of how to provide employment for beneficiaries I would recommend who do well, not just because someone has benefited from a system and then if they go to the university or colleges of education or any college of education or a polytechnic and graduate with a third class, I don't see how that is possible. So maybe the students that would have done well, accomplish the degrees or diplomas or HNDs should be given maybe a provision for an automatic employment so as to guarantee that they are able to pay off these loans. Without paying off the loans, then maybe one day the funds could dry up and then others who are supposed to benefit from it are unlikely to benefit, and that would be unfortunate.
Well, they also have the grace, to seek for extension of enforcement of the repayment. That is if a sworn affidavit, is being provided for. We'll pick up with the conversation. Let's take a break. We're back. The conversation is on the prospect of the student loan scheme to educational development. We have some more reports before we continue our conversation with our guest, Dr. Hayab. University dons and students and institutions of higher learning have lauded the action of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in removing all bottlenecks holding down the student loan scheme and signing it into law. Chair Gonu Aro reports.
Positive reactions and thumbs up are the expressions of university communities on the amended students' loan scheme. Since the 3rd of April 2024, when the bill became an act, students and parents have heaved sighs of relief. They are of the opinion that the scheme comes with a human face in many categories, such as skills acquisition, which includes vocational students, and inclusion of welfare on tuition.
President had humanized the act. He has given it a human face. For instance, now the new act, the 2024 act, has provided for also the needs of students that are in vocational training, not only in the higher institution. I'm very impressed.
It's a legacy project for me as far as I'm concerned, and we thank Mr. President for doing this, because access to education, and education is a right that's supposed to be enjoyed by all, irrespective of their financial status or financial or social status.
To relieve a lot of hardship of our students, because many of the students are really going through hard times now.
It will help them, like in order to bring up a budget, a particular amount of budget, so that they won't depend on their parents mostly.
They applauded the fully automated system of the loan scheme in Enugu. Chiegono Aro, NTA News.
Well, students of tertiary institutions in Kaduna State said the loan scheme introduced by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is more than just financial aid, but a beacon of hope and a testament of the government's commitment to nurturing future leaders. Mohammed Umar Ajingi, who interacted with some of the student union leaders, reports that they expressed their appreciation for the opportunity to build a brighter tomorrow.
The Students' Loan Scheme program was introduced to offer support to Nigerian students. Abu Raymond Ojochokwe, 400-level medical students of Kaduna State University, remembered the challenging times when many of his colleagues had to drop out due to the sudden increase in their school fees. He says it was disheartening to see dreams put on hold because of financial constraints.
As a medical student, I know the expensive nature of my textbooks, how expensive my textbooks are, the equipment I need to get, and even the finance. So basically, when the school fees was actually increased, I felt all hope was lost.
But with the introduction of the President Tinubu Students Loan Program, their hope has been reignited. Now students like Abu Raymond can continue their education without the fear of financial barriers. Abubakar Muhammad is the president of Kaduna State Student Union, Kaduna State University chapter.
Yeah, a lot of students have even dropped out due to that terrible increment. But schemes like this can even make those students say, okay, we still have chance. We can still enroll to maybe another tertiary institution, even not Kaduna State University.
I know students for Kaduna State are actually grateful for this, and we pray that these people that want to be doctors, pharmacists, and also pilots that don't have this money to actually sponsor themselves are actually going to gain this, and their dream is going to come through.
I will say thank you to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Fundamental bossa to our able President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Bossa, bossa, bossa.
In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umarajingi, NTA News.
All right. Was all right. Okay, so we'll pick up with the conversation perspective of the students' loan scheme to educational development. Our guest, Dr. Philip Hayab, you just watched the last report, excitement in the air. And when the president was signing the act into law, he said something very important. He said, no one, no matter your background, should be excluded from having access to quality education, and building their tomorrow. Now, we've seen initiatives, alike, and looking at a nation like Nigeria, do you foresee a possibility of abuse of this initiative, and how can that be addressed?
Thank you. I'm optimistic, but then because of past experiences, one has to be cautious. So while I joined the students to say Bossa, I was a unionist myself. I also want to caution that particularly for the managers of this loan scheme, I think the onus is now on them to prove the people wrong, that is to prove maybe those pessimists that things cannot work in Nigeria to make it work. So yes, the abuse is likely going to come where some people maybe constitute themselves into some bottlenecks or authorities, and instead of allowing a free flow of the application process and the selection process, once we are able to cater for this and allow it to be free and fair as it should be, I see the loan scheme becoming a blossoming opportunity of access to education for those who are unable to go to the university because they have no one to fund them. I see also this idea of equity and inclusion for those who have actually felt neglected. When we were in school, we didn't have much fees to pay. I think I paid 3,000 and I was paying 19 naira for accommodation. Today, to be in a university, from what I've gathered, is extremely expensive. So once this loan takes off, and we do hope that the gatekeepers will ensure that it is those who really need these loans that will get them, so that those who already have the means should not be in any way beneficial of the loans. Once we do this, I can guarantee that we will have a lot to celebrate later.
Yeah, and Dr. Hayab, I'm sure you're talking about the eligibility of the applicants. And NEL Fund, that's the Nigeria Education Loan Fund, is in charge of that process and disbursement. Now, if we want to look at the, earlier you mentioned the whole BVN name that could be used, to track and trace. But eligibility is very important from what you're saying, so there is no abuse of the initiative. Now, how can technology be deployed, selecting the right people? What should they look out for, really? Because these things can be avoided.
Yes, so I have in my last appearance on the NTA on this matter, I was actually talking about those students who have the grades to be admitted to the university. So universities have their cutoff marks. So students need to score very high grades, because once you give the opportunity to brighter students for a start, then the scheme will become competitive, and it has the capacity of increasing seriousness in particularly prospective beneficiaries. So that is one way I'm looking at it. The other thing is, I don't know the content of the eligibility at the moment, but once the body can gather a lot of information, the place of birth, the the prospective the candidates' parents' information, whether they are alive, whether they are dead, what their job statuses are. From here, I'm nearly sure that we can get an aggregate information that should guide the group the management to be able to make a credible selection. I also feel that they should decentralize it because of the teeming population that we have. You can imagine if everybody has to come to Abuja, then there are those who can't even make it to Abuja. So the best would be to operate from the state level. And I will suggest that the body should partner with state scholarship boards. State scholarship boards have experienced staff who have worked on scholarship selection over the years. And for instance, in Kaduna State, where I come from, I used to know that you go for an interview, and in fact, sometimes you are expected to even speak a particular language to show that you understand the location from which you are coming from. But because this is a national program, we will recommend that we don't become nepotic about it, but then we should find rules that will make sure that only Nigerians and Nigerians who are serious. I would see it as a waste of resource if we give these loans to people who go to the university and drop out. So that is going to be an aspect that the body shouldered with selecting candidates for these loans should look at. Once we start with those who are committed, then we would have, I believe that we'll have an expansion of a number of students in secondary school committed to working harder so that they could qualify to earn the scholarship and make it to the higher institutions, and that will be a plus.
Indeed, Dr. Hayab, a renewed commitment, and we hope that those in charge will do the needful so that dreams don't just get thwarted. Thank you very much, Dr. Philip John Hayab. He's an educator, teacher educator, and a conflict analyst. Thank you for your time on Weekend File.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take another break. We'll be back shortly. Don't go anywhere. Glad you're there. Let's take sports update. That's next.
Organizers of the Nigeria Premier Football League have rescheduled match day 30 fixtures with only 2 games set to take place this weekend. All other matches will now take place on Tuesday, April the 16th. Sunday's fixtures will see Enyimba International host Heartland in an Oriental derby, with Enugu Rangers playing at home to Abia Warriors in another derby. In the English Premier League, Manchester City moved to the top of the table with a 5-1 victory over Luton Town at the Etihad Stadium. Tottenham suffered a humiliating 4-0 defeat at the hands of Newcastle United, ending their 3-match unbeaten run. Manchester United drew 2-2 away to Bournemouth, while Wolverhampton Wanderers also held Nottingham Forest to a 2-2 draw, with Brentford getting a 2-0 win over Sheffield United. Away to the Monte Carlo Masters as Casper Ruud avenged his loss in last year's French Open final by recording a shock 6-4, 1-6, 6-4 win over Novak Djokovic in a thrilling semi-final. He will now face Stefanos Tsitsipas at the title clash after the Greek upset Yannick Sinner in the first semi-final. Finally, former US Open champion Emma Raducanu had an exceptional weekend as she defeated Diana Parry of France 4-6, 6-1, 7-6 to secure Britain's spot in the Billie Jean King Cup finals on Saturday. In other results, Slovakia defeated Slovenia to secure their place in Seville, while Naomi Osaka's Japan emerged victorious against Kazakhstan. With sports update, Bade Adeleye, NTA News.
And that's Weekend File. Thank you for your company. Do have a lovely night rest. I'm Ruth Aguilera. Bye.